Hello and welcome to Let's Build a Treetop Town. This is a new series in which I will be building a treetop town. I'm hoping to do quite a lot of Let's Builds, this being the first of many. Now one thing you will notice straight away is that we're in first person here, and that's because originally this wasn't going to be a Let's Build. It was going to be a survival playthrough, except halfway through I switched to creative because I thought I could do a really good Let's Build on this and it would be fun. And sort of as soon as I did that, I felt that I wanted to record it in a kind of panorama, third-person-y time-lapse. And there is a mod for that called Camera Studio, which I will be using, but at the point of recording this, obviously, as it started in first person, I did a bit in that, and then also I had to wait for the mod to be updated. So the first couple of parts to this will be in first person, so I'm sorry about that, you have to put up with that. And then after that it has been recorded with the time-lapse. But so yeah, this was all done in survival here, and I was just trying to survive the first night. So I had found a suitable tree in a jungle biome where I'd spawned, and built a little platform, got a bed, slept on it, getting some torches up. And I wanted to do almost a Let's Build, but in survival, and kind of mix the two together. But it just, once I'd tried to play around with the wood, which I wanted sideways because it can be now, it just wasn't working and it was tricky to get at from the ground. So I decided, as you can see here, game mode 1. And that just made the whole thing much easier. Right, so now initially the first thing I wanted to work on was this basic house type thing on one of the main trees, which I did by building this platform and then giving it a base and then walls. And I wanted the platform itself to look kind of man-made, so made out of wooden planks, but the walls and everything else to be made out of natural wood, like it was almost a weird formation in the way the tree had grown. So I played around with getting them all the right way round so that it all worked nicely. Here you can see I'm building a few what look like columns, but this is actually going to make up the wall. I'm just leaving space for windows in between, as I wanted it to be quite nice and homey as well. And this to be, I started off thinking I wanted this as more one of the focal central points, but as I expanded it later on, I realised that actually it was too vast to have a small house as a kind of focal point. So I expanded away from that, but for now obviously I've spent quite a bit of time on this just to make it how I wanted it. So I'm putting the windows in. I realised afterwards that I was doing this in a bit of an odd order, because I then had to fill in the wood underneath the windows, which proved to be a bit tricky in terms of getting it the right way round. I ended up having to fly around the outsides to do this. Also, doing it in first person, I should probably say, it meant that my recording settings weren't as nice and smooth as it would be with the time-lapse. So if it does appear a bit laggy, then again, I'm sorry about that. Just, if you could bear with me for a couple of parts, it will get a lot nicer. Also, as it was not on peaceful or anything, I didn't want any creepers coming. I didn't want any chance of it blowing up, certainly not to start with. so I just made sure it was daytime for like the whole time to start with. Also, it meant that I didn't have to light it up in a nasty way, scattered torches everywhere, so you can see what's going on. Right, so that's nearly done. There we go. It looked a bit ugly underneath, so what I wanted to try and do was spread this out. I'm doing these ones sideways so that from underneath it looks smooth wood. Even though it's not completely symmetrical at the sides, but I found that it's tricky to do at the corners because one side will always be facing out, and so you can't get it even on all four sides. But at least it gave the right impression from underneath. Filling up the vines here so that I could climb up and add a higher platform in. Also, as I wanted it to look like part of the tree, I got the jungle leaves and filled this all up so that it did just look like the tree had grown out in a very odd formation. But I wanted it looking as natural as possible. And also then it also, in a second way, acted as a roof to the house. And I just left one gap out so that you could climb up the vines. I then decided that here was probably a good place for a second level. And for this level, rather than building a particular base, I wanted it to be a sort of joining it to the other trees. So I almost wanted just a small platform. And I was trying to work out how to do that, and I was playing around with some ideas. I was just getting an idea of the size of the tree there. Clearing away some of the leaves. And filled in this vine, which was annoying me. So I worked out roughly how wide I was going to make this platform. I chose one of the tallest trees around to make this house on. It's one of the base trees, so I wasn't necessarily going to build right up to the top of that tree, as I wanted a platform in it to connect to the top of other trees. I was then trying to work out what I should use to make a bridge with. Ended up going with the half blocks, the jungle wood half blocks, because they look thinner and you can kind of get that rickety wooden bridge feel with them, rather than the big full blocks, which would have seemed too unnatural and too big. I then wanted some fencing to go along the side of it. Wasn't quite sure how I wanted it to work though, because it would just float in the air, so I wasn't sure about that. But first of all, I put a fence rim around the platform so that, you know, any wanderers wouldn't fall off. I then thought maybe put it along there. It worked out that I was actually just connecting it straight to the fence from the platform. It doesn't look quite right, but it sort of does the job, and I actually quite like the feel of it on a look of it from actually walking on it. So I went with it. Right, as soon as I reached another tree, I wanted to connect these two up straight away and turn this into another type of building. I had a bit of a look as to where it was in relation to the rest of the biome. As I could see, it was right at the edge of the jungle biome, overlooking both a swamp and a plains biome. And so I decided this could either be a kind of lookout post or maybe an observatory. So first of all, I wanted to just kind of fill the floor in or anything else. I wanted a kind of mix of wood and leaves so that it appeared natural, but like had a vague man-made feel about it. Like the people that live in there had just kind of adapted nature rather than purposefully harmed it to make it suit their needs. I was thinking about the observatory, and then I actually noticed this nicer tree, just slightly further out. It was a bit taller. Let's turn the rain off because it doesn't look quite right for this build. So I built a bit of a path there with the intention of filling it in later with the fence outline to it. And then I started work on this building. I was using the half blocks to make stairs up onto the platform. So I quite like where I got to. So I then used glass to make up the walls, so it was the sort of observatory outpost idea that I'd planned. And you've got this lovely view overlooking the plains next to it. I then just started to put in a bit of the fencing for this pathway, and got me to the dilemma of how to fill in the fences for when the level changes on the path, and where was right to go down. So I just had a close look and almost just tried it out by trying and error, just walking on it and seeing if it stopped me falling off. So this is the sort of foundation, if you like, of the observatory that's laid there. It's a bit of a vague idea. Still needs a roof and finishing touches. But at least that gives me a plot of where it will be. So here I am filling in this fence. I decided that this tree would almost be more of a passing point, as I wasn't going to use it as the observatory. So I felt, you know, why shouldn't the path just pass over the top of a tree? And as I say, the people have just built it in to the tree. So it looks like part of it. And I quite like the feel I got from this, and then it worked quite nicely leading up to the observatory. Then started work on capping the top of this glass, so more of a basis for a roof. And then just filled this roof in. And then all in all I was quite happy actually with the feel of this whole place. It's a nice little observatory, you get a view out over the other biomes. Also it marks the edge of the territory. This is the platform, leads out, as you can see the building there. Go up to it and you have a nice look out. So that's about the progress we made in the Let's Build for this episode. I hope you're happy with it. I hope you put up with the fact that it's in first person and you don't mind. I hope you like this sort of thing, because there's going to be a fair more of it coming. And as I say, soon it will be in the time-lapse and much smoother. But I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Let's Build a Treetop Town, and I'll see you next time.